So tonight we're going to be talking about artificial intelligence, going over some of the basics of it, and just kind of introducing everyone to this. So I have with us, we're here at the Rowan Public Library. I have with us some key speakers with Rowan County Information Technology. We have Tony Wheeler, who will be coming up first. She's a business analyst within the department. We have Bryce Russell, another business analyst within the department, and April Everett, our application services manager. So with that, thank you. Come here.
Welcome. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the understanding your rise of AI's influence. You may have heard about AI in the news. You've likely even used it yourself and certainly thought about how it could affect you. So let's talk a little bit about what AI means. Generative artificial intelligence is capable of generating text, images, or other data using generative models, often in response to prompts. Examples of generative AI technologies include ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini, Claude, and Perplexity. Here are some breakdowns of the AI tools that we just mentioned, and some of the features that they offer. ChatGPT. We've listed these free versions as examples, just sort of as an introductory level for your information. Most of these models offer advanced subscription levels, which may provide additional features and bells and whistles, but this is the free model of these particular technologies. So ChatGPT is one of them. It uses GPT 3.5, and the paid version utilizes GPT. Copilot and Bing, Gemini, Claude, Perplexity. These are all examples of some AI tools that you can use for different projects. Let's talk a little bit about those. First of all, let's discuss differences. It's sometimes hard to distinguish between a human written article and one that could be generated by AI. But there are some key indicators that you can look for. So let's discuss those. First would be tone and consistency. Humans maintain a consistent tone, while AI may have fluctuations. Emotional nuance. Human articles convey emotions and opinions which are challenging for AI to sort of replicate genuinely. Repetitiveness. AI can generate repetitive phrases while humans sort of aim for diversity and engagement. Originality. Humans being unique perspectives, while AI relies on learned patterns. So as a little exercise, we're going to see if you can spot the difference between AI and human-generated content using those little tricks we just learned. All right, so let's read the two quotes. One of these is written by a journalist, and the other one is written by Canva's Magic Write. Can you tell which one is written by AI? And what makes you come to this conclusion? I'll give you a moment to take a look at those books. The A?
I was gonna say A too, yeah, but journalist.
All right, drum roll, please. Let's see what it is. You're right. A was the one that was actually generated by AI technology. Let's see if you get this one right. Take two. These are two more examples. Can you tell if one of these was written by AI?
A is the AI. Shit.
All right.
Just to make it interesting.
Just to make it interesting, let's see. B. B was the one that was written by AI technology. So this is just sort of a fun fact. The first chatbot that was created was developed back in the 1960s. It was named Eliza, and it was developed by MIT professor Joseph Weizenbaum and could simulate a conversation with a psychotherapist. Users were convinced they were actually talking to a human being, even though Eliza's understanding of language at that time was incredibly basic. AI image and video generators. These tools can generate realistic photos and videos of landscapes, animals, people, and objects for use in things like design, illustrations, and special effects, including other projects. So let's talk about real versus generated when it comes to photographs. Distinguishing between a real photograph and one that's generated by AI can be challenging, but here are some key indicators to look out for. First would be environmental elements. Real world photos usually contain subtle elements of their environment, such as reflections, shadows, and imperfections. Distortions, if you look really closely, you can notice that AI generated art typically has blurred backgrounds, asymmetry in faces. Objects like glasses or earrings may blend into the skin. And the funniest one I think is that hands often have extra fingers. That's a really good telltale for AI generated images. Tags. Not everybody will disclose the use of AI when they're posting images, but those that do sometimes tag it as such in the title or the description section of a post. Watermarks. Some AI software will use watermarks to identify artwork. Sometimes this looks like 5 colorful squares in the bottom right corner of an image. So those are some indicators that you can look at as well to try to distinguish between real versus AI generated. So we're gonna put you to the test again. All right, here are 2 photos. Can you tell which one is generated by AI? You think A?
Yeah.
All right, general consensus is A.
Yeah.
Final answer. All right, let's see, drum roll please. The correct answer is
I
A.
was gonna say the guy's fingers on his right hand look weird.
Yeah. I know, now that I'm mentioning it, focus on the fingers, but one thing that I can point out, the necklace, if you'll notice in photograph A, it's not really connected to anything, it's just kind of free floating, fingers, she's got a couple extra fingers on her hands, you know, things like that. The pixelation on her arms, it's easier for me to see closer to the screen, of course, but things like that, blurred background. So those are some telltale signs that you can use to distinguish in that example. Let's look at another. Can you tell which one of these is generated by AI?
Okay.
That was quick turnaround.
Let's see how it's done.
I guess the idea was to walk from fans and people walking the hall was not for.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna say B, because I can't see the lady in black's other hand.
This one was a little trickier in the black and white. So let's see what the answer is. The correct answer is A. A was the AI generated image. Again, if you look at things like the buttons on this lovely lady's dress are kind of wonky and not really symmetrical. Fingers and hands are a little distorted there. That one is a little harder to tell. She has an earring that's just sort of floating in the abyss. It's not really connected to a ear or anything. So that was a little more difficult with the black and white image to kind of distinguish. But again, you can kind of take those telltale signs and sort of figure that out when you're evaluating what's real versus AI generated as far as images go. Here is another image. Let's see if you can tell which one of these was generated by AI. And with a quick B. What makes you think B? What makes you think B?
Well, the one on the left, it looks very much like it was taken on a slide. The leaves were real bit here.
Mhm.
I think I had A as a computer background a couple years ago too.
Really?
Yes.
This seems like too much of an area of just pure green. You know, it doesn't seem like that seems realistic scene. There's no towers or any kind of valley or anything like that.
And that sky, or whatever it is in the background, unless it's pulled down things.
Yeah, it does look rainy.
Wow.
Very interesting cloud patterns, yep, that's something you could definitely consider. All right, let's see what the correct answer is this time. Correct answer is B. So you can notice some repetitive patterns in the mountains or the hills in the background. They kind of look similar, like the images sort of duplicated in places. You're right, there's a lot more detail in the leaves in picture A and things like that. So again, it's nice to use these context clues like clouds and shadows and repetitiveness to try to determine the differences between those. So this is a quick YouTube video or a clip of one where we're going to listen to a little blurb about technology in recent years and how far it's kind of come in the last little bit. So I'm going to push play here. Listen to that.
Grandma celebrating her birthday, and just try to think like, what, I wonder what birthday she's celebrating, right? I don't know. How old do you think she is? 60? 65? Maybe it's the big 70. She seems to really like that cake. Now, did you see it? Did you catch that? I'm gonna play it again, but this time watch the video knowing that AI generated photos and videos have trouble accurately doing hands. I'll play it again. And now it feels super obvious. Like every time you watch it, watch a different set of hands. It gets weirder and weirder. You can watch it like 5 times and there's dead giveaway after dead giveaway. Not even mentioning the weird inconsistencies with the direction of the wind on the candles. But even as I'm saying all that, even as it's coming out of my mouth, I can't help but remember that 12 months ago we were critiquing this. So what does this all mean? Well, I mean, there's what it means now, and there's what it means for the future. Now, Sora, this thing that they've made, is clearly a really impressive video generation AI tool that
He goes on to talk a little bit about, there's drone video now that's AI generated, so what is that gonna look like for content creators? You don't have to hire a drone pilot if you can just generate the content, so it's definitely come a long way in a very short time.
Yes, of course. All right, so I think I'm gonna tag out. Here is my partner, April, and she's gonna take over for the creative uses for AI.
So we talked a little bit about kind of keeping yourself safe and figuring out what's real and what's not real, and it's gonna become harder. It's the gentleman that was in that video clip right before this made the statement earlier in the video, this was the worst that AI would ever be. And that was pretty good, I mean, other than the sort of awkward hand movements, but this is the worst it will ever be. Moving forward, it's just gonna continue to get refined. So we talked a little bit about the sort of staying safe and paying attention to those signs. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the fun uses of it. It's not all bad. It may seem a little scary, but if we use it to our benefit, then it can certainly enhance our creative abilities and our professional abilities as well. You'll see that a little bit later. So we're just going to go over a couple of creative uses, creating trip itineraries. Anybody in here like to travel? Yeah. So you can actually let GPT plan your next trip. Whether you have a short amount of time, you can feed it how much information you want. If you've got 24 hours or 3 days, and it'll give you an itinerary. You can use it to write personalized stories. My colleague Bryce is going to talk a little bit about that and how he uses that with his children. You can generate unique images. He also uses that on Taco Tuesday and other nights just for fun, so we'll kind of look at that. And then it can even inspire original artwork. So we oftentimes think about how it's taking away from the creative process, but it actually, in the case of a local artist, she's using it as inspiration. So kind of look at that as well. So this, I just asked it, I have 24 hours to visit Salisbury, North Carolina. Can you help me put together a list of things to do while I'm in town? And this is actual speed of how quickly it generates a trip itinerary. And with most of us probably being local to Rowan, we know the Nicholas Park is accurate. The hours are not. So just kind of know that it's not foolproof, and you probably are going to have to go out there and verify some of the details. National Cemetery, Piedmont Players, Rowan Museum, all of these we're kind of familiar with, so we know it's probably pretty much on the money. gives me a map, even gives me the listings down there to learn more about those locations. So that's just kind of a quick way. If you're going somewhere like we were interested in going to San Antonio, I can say I have 3 days in San Antonio. Tell me what I absolutely can't miss. And it'll generate, I mean, literally less than a minute, it'll generate a trip.
Have you been
Just,
there?
I have not, it's on my bucket list.
What season do you guys?
I wanted to go next week, but it didn't pan out. So I will step aside and let my colleague Bryce talk a little bit about the creative uses of their family issues.
Yeah, so, me and my wife, she does the majority of it. Homeschool our children, and, so my son Benjamin is learning to read. And, he, much like me, I'm not a big fiction reader, I really like to read nonfiction, and so, that's generally what he is interested in. And he's got lots of different interests. And so with AI, one of the first things that I started doing was just going in and creating prompts that I could adjust. And it would write things that he was specifically interested in or asking about the weather, about whatever we happen to be learning about, whatever the subject is that he's particularly interested in. And so this is kind of the prompt that I messed with it and got it to the point where I would throw this in on the front end, and it would say, make sure that the vocabulary is appropriate for someone who's learning how to read, and make sure that it is engaging and interesting for a child. And so it will, if you feed it a little bit of formatting and kind of some process as to what you're looking for, even do image generation and not only just come up with a long narrative, but I don't think in the previous slide I showed, but one of the things that I gave it was the instructions that I wanted a book to be 8 pages long, and to break that content out over the 8 pages in a way that would make sense, and then to create images that would go along with those 8 pages, and then to create a cover for it. And so it does a pretty good job of coming up with something that would be interesting, and in a matter of a couple of minutes, he's got a custom book that is specific to him, that included him. I can tell it to include his siblings, or his best friend across the street, and it'll include illustrations and everything that are appropriate for the pages of the book. And it does a pretty good job of coming up with interesting content that is engaging and he's excited to read. And then a lot of times we'll follow that up with an educational video after the fact that, once he has read everything and gone through the exercise that we wanted him to go through, that he gets rewarded by getting to watch a 30-minute video that also accents or helps to highlight the stuff that we're trying to teach him. So we've done this with a number of different subjects, and it really has worked out well. A lot of times he's like I was saying, not super excited to read, and this has really changed things for him. April was mentioning that I like to mess with generative AI, and so these are some of the images that I've created, and much like they were talking about earlier, you can tell that it's AI generated. But what town in North Carolina do y'all think this presents?
Coloring.
Good guess. What was that?
I don't know my mountain towns, but we don't.
So, yeah, this one was actually Boone. And, it is, there's a mountain, an overlook that, looks out over Boone, and this is very representative of a photograph that was taken there. Like everyone's talking about, we use it to do all kinds of different things. So, sir,
Should be a prize for doing.
I don't think, yeah, we'll have to bring prizes next time. But yeah, can anybody guess what prompts were used to generate these?
Cheese.
Cheese.
And tacos. And tacos.
So let's go ahead and give it away here, but yeah, the prompt for this one was a mountain of tacos on top of a whiteboard Explorer. Whiteboard Explorer is what I have on Tuesdays, we always get tacos, and so yeah, one of the days whenever I had picked up tacos and was on my way home, I sent that to let them know that I had left the taco restaurant. Everybody get to the table, you know? So, and then the kids just wanted a snowman dressed for the beach in Florida, and it does a pretty good job. I mean, it's pretty impressive. And then I will let April talk about the inspiration behind this one.
So this is a beautiful watercolor illustration by Randy's wife, Daisha Cress. And it was inspired by an AI generated image. She was looking for something specific, and so she fed it a prompt and was able to get inspiration, but actually kind of do the reverse of what we think of with AI and create an original work. So we thought that was really neat. And for anybody who's an aspiring author or enjoys writing stories, you know, talking back just one slide, while the snowman and the Taco Tuesday Explorer is kind of fun, it's also a way that you can generate images for sort of not mythical stories necessarily, but stories that you might not have illustrations readily available to you, and you could create those yourself. Definitely, Daisha's used several images for inspiration for her works.
That's just how she thinks. She knows what it is, but she can't draw it from scratch. So she can give a prompt and get at least some likeness to.
Yes, there was another one, I think she said a pumpkin and a kitty cat, and she had all the elements that she wanted generated in the image, and then she was able to use that, so. Kind of a unique, I'm sorry, there we go, professional uses. So we talked a little bit about creative, now we're gonna look at some professional uses to automate your routine tasks. That saves time, it maximizes productivity, reduces your human error. So 4 of the ways that you can use this in your everyday life, something that we all use daily, is a note-taking transcription feature. So we use a tool like that when we're in meetings, and so we're actually able to be present in meetings and not have to be furiously taking notes, which we still do, but it kind of takes the pressure off. And there are free versions of that we'll just talk about too. Job seeking. So if you're looking to build a resume or practice job interview questions, it's a really great tool for that. Troubleshooting, Bryce's go-to, his step 1 is to ask AI what to do about something, and we use that on a daily basis as well. And then you can, similar to getting those trip itineraries, you can actually plan your day, you can feed it some details, and it'll spit out a schedule. This would be amazing for programming, like David's put this program together. If he had to do something with multiple components to it, or you had a staff development day and you wanted to feed it some information, it'll spit it out with times for when to do those different things. So one of the note-taking tools that we found that was free is Fireflies. We have not personally used this, but it's very similar to what we use. It has transcription. Even Zoom has transcription now, but I think that the nice thing about some of these tools is that you can ask them questions. So what do we decide about this topic during the meeting? You can search within meetings, clip out sound bites, that sort of thing. The one that we use every day, for work is Otter, and there is a free basic plan. It is incredible. All you have to do is say @Otter and ask it a question. And I can't tell you how many times that's been useful for us when we've gone back and we can share it amongst our team because we do have the paid version. But you might have something to add to the free
Yeah.
account as well.
It's just an excellent tool. Yeah, I've tried the free account. And the couple of instances that I've used it, we've got older dog, and she's 14 years old, and a lot of times whenever I go to the vet, he's furiously telling me all the different things. There I am with the dog, I don't have a good place to take notes, and so that, you know, that was the first place that I was like, hey, you know, it'd be great if I just recorded this. And yeah, there it was, everything that he had told me. I could go back, I got home, the recipes for the dog food that we were gonna be making since she had a kidney issue, and we make special food for her. All the ingredients were there. It was just, it was excellent. So, like it was said, it's an invaluable tool. It's really neat.
So in a case like this, do you say to your vet, is it okay if I use this, or how does?
In that instance, I did not. Yeah, I just recorded and let it do the transcribing. So I don't keep the recordings, just keep the transcription. So the note taking aspect of it is all I was really looking for in that case. So that, but I think that the free version does allow you to keep those, but I don't know what the limitations are.
In looking at job seeking tools, I fed it this prompt, help me build a resume. I'm not gonna read the whole thing, I promise. But I threw in some details of when I was where, what I did while I was there, what my professional associations are. So this is just kind of reads like if you and I were talking, well, yeah, I've been doing this for 20 years, I did this here, and then, you know, it's definitely more of a narrative here, and maybe I'm not so good at the formatting side of things. So I can feed it that prompt and it will generate me a resume. This is real time that I can then copy out. You can tweak the formatting because it's probably not going to be perfect, but I have a resume that might have taken me a lot longer to do by hand. And it's, again, it goes back to just automating those processes. It's not really cheating. I gave it the information. It's just taking the formatting part of it out for me. And then I can tweak it and fix it, make it look the way I want it to. The other job tool that you can use it for is, I apologize. I'm sorry, everyone. There we go. The other option is you can feed, this is what I'm applying for, can you help me prepare for my interview? And it'll give you some interview questions. It's not gonna obviously do the interview for you, but it will help you prepare and it'll explain what they're looking for with those types of questions too. So that's another kind of good use for it if you're looking for a job. And we spoke to the troubleshooting. This is an actual question I asked it last week because we had somebody that was needing to cancel an agreement in Adobe Sign, and I could not figure out why it was not giving her the right permissions. And so I just asked to see if Copilot, which is the Bing version of AI, would give me the information. Now, in this case, yes, this is correct. It did not fix the problem I had for her, but it confirmed that we were doing what we were supposed to be doing. I still had to open a ticket with support, but it's just a great first step. And if you guys have anything to add to that,
Well, I mean, one of the excellent things that they've added to these, ChatGPT was one of the first ones that came out that I had messed with. And it didn't do a whole lot of citations. And so obviously you want to confirm that information is correct. And it's pulling from sources that make sense. And in this case, it did, and it's referencing where it came from, help.adobe.com. So, that's excellent. And then, one of the things that me and Randy, have talked about is, a lot of times is, as I've engaged it and used it over time, one of the most successful strategies that I've found is, sometimes it will say things that doesn't make exact sense. And a lot of things, I think some of the documentation and some of the videos that you have watched said, treat it as an intern. A lot of times I'll go back and follow up and ask questions. And so you kind of treat it like somebody who knows, the majority of what they need to know, but you're kind of guiding it in the direction that you want it to go, or for what you're looking for. And a lot of times with 2 or 3 additional add-on questions, hey, that looks great. It looks like you've found a good troubleshooting guide. I gave this a shot and it didn't work. Here's the error message that I got whenever I tried this. And after 2 or 3 times, it gets it perfect. And so a lot of times that one, in this case, a lot of them are limited to a look back of so many questions. I think Bing or Copilot is currently 30. So it can take the context of everything that you've asked it up to that point into consideration as it's formulating the next answers. And obviously you can also provide feedback there as well to tell it if it's getting what you were wanting, and it really does do a pretty good job of improving the next response that you should.
So the last thing, as far as uses that are helpful in terms of, words are hard, professional uses, thank you. In this case, I fed it a prompt, help me plan my workday. I have a meeting for 1 hour, lunch plans, all the things. So just kind of fed it, this is what my day is kind of gonna look like. Help me plan it. And it gave me a very quick rundown. So again, I feel like this would be very useful if you're planning an event or a program or something where you have the things you need to do, but you want to break them down into chunks and even give yourself, afternoon break and things like that. All you have to do is feed it that prompt, and you can keep, to Bryce's point, you can keep refining it. I want an extra break. Can you add another break in there? And it'll keep generating, so it'll remember some of. See, why do I keep doing that? I'm very sorry. Website searching. So Randy's going to come up and talk a little bit more about this, but just wanted to show you on the county website, we do have what we're calling an enhanced search, and that is AI. So we also still have our traditional keyword search as well, and you can pick which one you want to use, but I'll let Randy take it away since he's done so much work in this area.
Thank you. So wanted to also show you from at least Rowan County's perspective, from IT, what we're looking at as a public-facing use of AI. There's kind of some history with this, and I think the slides will reference this. I know April and I discussed quite a bit whether we would call it AI search or enhanced search, and we just said enhanced search because we have keyword search still, and we'll show this here in a second. But what this is when the website went through a redesign, one of the main front and center items was, you're here, now what are you looking for? And next slide here. This is the keyword search, and this is what everyone's used to. This is not specific to Rowan County. This is about every government-related website that exists in the US. Everybody has a keyword search, and because we have so much content, we offer so many services in so many departments. Somebody comes in and they're just, it's what's on your mind. I'm looking for a picnic shelter. I know in my mind, well, I want a picnic shelter at Dan Nicholas or Swamp Park, but if you don't know that, you're just wanting to have a picnic. So you're just putting in picnic shelters. Well, what's happened for years and years is we've had these type of searches, which actually look around and read. We do see that picnic shelters is there, but we talk about parking, we have a few other things. So you can get the information that you need for a picnic shelter, but you're just getting a start of the information. So if you go here and say, how do I run a picnic shelter? Now what we're doing is utilizing all this generative AI that was just talked about, but we're not going out to the internet. We're just using the content that the county webpage is. There's 500 plus a lot of documents, and pulling all that information together, saying, okay, here would be the results, but let's generate some text and narrative along with it to tell you, let's answer your question. And I think it's been discussed through this. A couple of things that were kind of key to that is citations, sourcing, and being able to get to not just your answer, because again, there's a chance that you're going to get some wrong information. That's the reason there's a disclaimers there. But in reference to keyword searches and what we've had for a long time, it's way far ahead. It's enhanced. So we're not saying it's perfect search. I don't think we're going to have a perfect search. But you can at least get more information. And we've learned a lot from having this here from questions that we've asked internally. Here, I know one, and I've worked with, you know, for like the landfill is asking you, can you throw away a washer or not? And ultimately what we found was there's a lot of information. So if you started digging through the webpage, I was kind of interested in why are we not getting a result that says whether or not I can throw away a washer or dryer. But we mentioned a lot of different things. We don't mention any type of appliances. And so there's also the help too, to start using what you might have as commonly asked questions or questions that come up. And on our side, it's helping drive updated content. Because now we know why somebody was going there. It's not about something was 5 or 6 levels deep. Another really good story on this is, and this is something we've learned for the upcoming Autumn Jubilee. I was asking, when's the Autumn Jubilee? What can I expect? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Like, okay, what's wrong with this? I mean, we know it's new and everything, but why is it so wrong? Because we have Autumn Jubilee information. Well, in the creative side, we're really good about doing flyers and everything. It was in a flyer format. We didn't have it in a text format. We had this banner that says Autumn Jubilee and all of this. But that's not what this is searching. This is really keying off of what text do we have on our sites. So it wasn't returning any results. So it's really kind of helped us understand, okay, if you're asking these type of questions and we're limiting it to just the county's website, which includes the libraries, taxes, parks. What is it that we have? What do we not have? And how can we improve on it? I think that's kind of where we're at. I'm not saying it's perfect. It's there. The other option is available for keyword searches, but it's really helped us talking about like knowledge bases and how we can start searching things to improve our information, things that we'll be looking at for our departments within the county to start asking on our own data. Minutes for all of the meetings that we have. Now being able to go back and start to search natural language to say, I know there was some, I mean, literally you can almost speak it in certain cases, I know there was something that was talked about, the park getting a new greenway. That's all I need to know. And then now I've got a natural language response on X date, there was a discussion, and it'll also have the other minutes. So, and then the main thing that we're trying to make sure from a responsible perspective is pointing to the original minutes. You can always go to the source to get the information. So that I think.
So you could use the enhanced search to say, I was at the county commissioner meeting on this day and they talked about something out at Old Lady Ford Road and whatever.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. Because that's what we're finding is we're getting there. That's the proper feedback. That's the feedback we want. Say, would that be great? We know where the data is at. We know how to get it. It's trying to get the system to understand and utilize that. Yes, it's coming.
Okay.
I'm not still coming soon. There's no. But it is really helping us drive. What is it? Because there's this side of it. I think everybody's shown there's also pieces that it doesn't do quite right. So we're having to take this kind of balanced approach of let's introduce it a little bit, make sure we got the backup, so with that, I will get to. So we'll open up to questions for you.
Sure. I have one, about the transcription, AIs. I'm the teen librarian here and I run a D&D program with the teens once a month. Note taking is probably the hardest part of doing that. Is it able to understand multiple voices talking at once?
Yes, some versions I think do a better job than others. I mean, I've had really good experiences where, it may listen as speaker one, speaker two, so it will pick up the cadences of different folks' voices in that way. And then sometimes if someone sounds similar, it could have a hard time, you just sort of determine who's speaking when. You can go back and you can assign a speaker to your transcription so that then it will go back and autofill correctly. So, I mean, that's been my experience using that tool.
It does a great job at it, and the more it has to trail, the better that gets. And then, the only time that it really struggles is whenever people talk over other people. And that's really the only time that I've seen it really.
That's the majority of the 2 hours.
I can't hear last night. And I know it was mentioned earlier, a question about that transcription tool and how do you notify someone you're using it or give them, that information. And for one example, when you use Otter with, say, Zoom in a meeting, on a Zoom call, it actually joins your meeting and it has a little bubble that pops up and says like, it's a member that joined that meeting. Bryce's Otter pilot has joined the meeting, so there is a notification to the other members in that meeting that that's going on, and you can always give them the information if you did in the event that something you have to do. But that is one feature in particular when using Zoom that it does, when it joins the meeting, it does kind of make an announcement that it's there, so.
And it does an even better job figuring out the different speakers when you're in Zoom versus like if I just had this laying out right now. And was already in this meeting, it would have a little bit harder time to distinguish between Pam and everybody else.
So, I understand it's odd, okay, but what do you use? Is there another type of AI that you get, getting a score for your kids, is that another?
So the one that I was using there was actually the free version of Copilot, that's available. I think it's copilot.microsoft, copilot.amy.com. It was listed on one of the slides at the very beginning. But what I had done there was in OneNote, I had created that prompt. I mean, you could do that in any word processor, you could do it in Word. I mean, you're just taking the portion of it that you're gonna want to put at the beginning of every one of those prompts. And then, pilot.microsoft.com. And then, each time, whatever, in this particular case, whatever my son is interested in learning about, that he wants to learn about the water cycle and how, rain and their evaporation and everything else, and I'll type that in and it will spit that out. And so you just add that to the end of the prompt that you've already generated. And it'll away it goes. So it's really neat from that standpoint, and like I said, all you really need for that is just one of these free tools and something to kind of record, because a lot of times what you find if you mess with a whole lot is that what you put in your prompt, and some small tweaks to it, heavily affects what output you get. And so you'll want to go back and say, okay, well, it did a pretty good job with this. Let's try this a second time, and I'm going to add some additional context and tell it, make sure that you make this story interesting to a child who is of this age group, and instead of just saying, well, my son was 7, then I want you to do something with that information. And then that's how I ended up with that particular prompt, and then just build off of that.
If I can add to that, kind of talking about the pitfalls that you might have. As Bryce says, when you're talking in most all of these, you can have an interactive chat with. They're using the information that they were trained on. Some will actually do a web search and actually go find something. But I know one of my earliest, it's like summer of last year, going through, and I was like, oh, this is not going to go anywhere because it's just so indecisive. And this was with ChatGPT. I would ask it a question. This was a fairly technical question, so I knew the answer I was looking for, and it got it wrong. And I went back and said, no, you're wrong. I know it's got to have this. And then you'll find that they're usually apologetic. You know, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. You're absolutely right. This is the answer. And, you know, and then I'll go back and I was researching some more and I'm like, no, I was just tricking you. Actually, you were right. Oh, I'm so sorry. Well, so what it's actually doing in that particular case is like Roy said, it's taking your context, you're giving it that window of information. So it's thinking, oh, well, you've given me the right answer. I'm just going to go along with it. So that's where it's changed from like, say 6 or 8 months ago to now doing a live search. And because then of course I'm asking my wife, you know, hey, why don't you ask the same thing? And he gives her a different answer. It's like, well, no, my context had that additional information and said, oh, you know, the sky is blue. So it's going along with you to some degree. So that's where, you know, at least from what we're making sure we're very heavily engaging everybody in is the human is still the person at the end. You know, the product is there. Make sure it's what you want before it goes out. So.
It's kind of a county specific question here, but as y'all are experimenting with these different types, do you foresee a point in time where you recommend that like, all divisions in the county have this on their computers and that we can also use it in our day-to-day?
So we've been talking about that and what it would look like. We've really had, from a county perspective, early adopters in a lot of different areas. Power users or different areas, and we always work with those folks to say, hey, if you want to try this first, we'll be happy to let you know. Because we want feedback, you know, not just our perspective and view of it. And so we've done that with Otter. You know, we're using that with a few folks for the transcriptions. So showing our captive audience, there's other members here. You know, you're kind of in the right place at the right time. So yes, that's exactly how we're doing that. It's really good to have kind of this organic. Let's let folks take a look at it, get different opinions on how it can be used in different use cases, because that's what we're not seeing. You know, I mean, we see all the different tools,
Right.
you know, and I will say right now, you know, this list here, it is from a technology perspective, you know, growing up with all this is really exciting because every day, every week, I've got something new. No, I've got something newer and better. And it really is back and forth. So, you know, if you're, you know, into the technology side of it, it's
Yeah.
really exciting.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes.
Out of all of these, Randy may have some recommendations, but I have found that the ChatGPT, its textual, window, is it 2022 and before?
We're going to see the size of it, the context window.
Well, in terms of.
Oh, how far it gets back.
How far it gets back in history, so like ChatGPT specifically was trained on, really focusing on, reading text, and it can answer questions and stuff like that, but if you were to ask it, who won the football game last weekend? It has no clue, and it'll respond back and let you know whatever that date was that they stopped allowing it to consume data. Copilot and Bing, and I'm sure Gemini's much the same. I haven't spent a whole lot of time with that one. But those are able to take that large language model and also search the internet and provide the the context, like April was showing where she asked it the question about the Adobe sign. And it came back and had references to web pages and stuff like that, so ChatGPT is not going to be able to do that, and the others are, Gemini is a Google product. But both of that's one of the things, and then, I'm not really all that familiar with Perplexity and all, but I think that they have the same ability to search the internet.
Yeah, I can give you kind of an idea of those. The ChatGPT 3 is probably right now, I think that's November 6th of last year, or at least that's that version. If you have the paid version and you're using the 4.0 version, just I think $20 a month. I think all of these are about $20 a month. I think that's the current going rate for all of them. It will actually do web searches on your behalf if you're asking questions. And Copilot being, like it says, it uses GPT-4. There's a heavy partnership with OpenAI and Microsoft. And so, of course, it's Microsoft with Bing, so they're going to use their search engine and return results. I will say from an accounting perspective, when you do log into your Microsoft 365 accounts, we are able to use the Copilot search, and it is one that is not using any training data, so you can key in things. The biggest thing from our perspective is the normal. You don't put personally identifiable information in and do things like that, which I don't think is a use case in many contexts anyway. So that's that. Google, of course, is using Gemini, and Google's a search engine, so they're able to do web searches. Claude, on the other hand, that's one that's more for reading big context. And I can see that from a library use case, or I think Gretchen, from the history room. There's a lot of things that you could just take a lot of data or very custom works and then just ask questions about that you wouldn't be able to do anywhere else. And Perplexity, one, the name's interesting, but two, they're doing interesting things. They're doing a lot of lookups, and they're trying to do it a little bit different than everybody. They've got this model where they'll go and pull information from different sources, put it together, and kind of give it to you in a half web page, half answer sort of view. So they're really kind of doing it a different way than everybody else because they're new and upcoming. So they're just trying to figure out how to do it. And they're more about you using it every day and kind of sorting your knowledge of, okay, I've been querying about, this trip to San Antonio. So you ask multiple questions and you kind of bundle everything that you've talked about over in the San Antonio bubble. So that's kind of different.
And I just got one last thing, I know you guys are on the county side of things, but, in terms of again, working with teams, I know they're gonna take the short way out as much as possible. Have you guys heard anything about using, I mean, I have too, but kind of think of the question as I'm talking, using AI to write a book report with private prejudice for me, how do teachers kind of is there a way to kind of stop that from happening?
Stop it?
Not stop it, but just spot it.
I think education is important in training and giving teachers the tools, again, like those key things to search for indicators, that sort of distinguish generated versus human created. I use it, I'm in school right now, not to write reports, but I can ask it to help me create an outline. I can give it my topic, the nature of the paragraphs, help me organize this in a sensible way that makes sense and things like that. Again, citations are important and things like that to verify your sources. And I think a lot of it comes down to education and training. But it's only going to get smarter. Like April mentioned at the beginning, this is the worst it's ever going to be. It's only going to continue to improve in Perplexity. So,
and I know it's a hard sell, but teaching them that they're only shooting themselves in the foot.
sure.
I mean, and I know that's a hard sell for teenagers, but I mean, my wife, she's a college instructor and, she teaches math. And the big thing for them for the last couple of years has been these apps that they literally can hold their camera in front of it and solve the math problem and show the work and everything else. To be honest, it's gonna do nothing but get better over time, so it's gonna be really hard to detect that as immediate.
Well, to your point, because my daughter is doing the exact same thing with math. But she's doing tutoring at NC State, but she's taking hard math classes. She needs the AI to go and say, here's my question, can you help explain this? Because you're being taught by one professor, they're teaching it their way, and it's like all of a sudden you ask the question, and then she's told me, like, this is awesome, it's told me the right, it's told me the real way to learn this, or that I understand, because you can have that dialogue. So there's pros and cons all the time, but if you can kind of encourage that kind of excitement of, yeah, keep having that conversation. I mean, you can figure out how to do this because you can break down everything in the steps now. You might not have that opportunity before. So.
And really emphasize that it's truly a tool. I mean, just that we do with a lot of different departments when we're working with them, this is a tool. It is not it's not a silver bullet, it's not gonna replace, it's not gonna replace everything. And so use it as a tool like Randy's describing, and I mean, it can be an excellent supplementary education. I mean, look at how awesome that, like you were saying, it breaks it down in steps. Show me what it is that I'm missing here, or I got this wrong. Here's the answer that I came up with. Can you tell me how did I arrive at this answer instead of what's the right answer? And I mean, you've never had that technology. So there's lots of negatives, but I mean there are a lot of positives too. So
It's kind of like when calculators first came out. And everybody was afraid that child would use calculator.
Well, we don't know how to stack off the vision, right?
Okay. Is AI at the point that a teacher could talk about the students' learning style and how they learn and have a lesson plan developed?
As a matter of fact, my wife was sharing with me because we were creating some content for this, and she was sharing with me some stuff that they had sent out at the community college. And that was exactly how they were describing it. They were using it was to help come up with custom content or help me, show me what you would think a student who really understood this concept well, what would their response be? And help me come up with a rubric for how to grade these and what the responses might look like. And it spit that way out, and we're using that to create the rubric system. So yes, to answer your question, it can do it, and that they're already using it. So.
And to tailor those prompts accordingly too. I mean, if you were prompted to say like, okay, well, use more plain language, use less flowery language to explain this concept to me. You can prompt it multiple times to the same question. I don't quite understand it. Can you put it more plainly? I don't, things like that. Context in your prompts is important too, to help tailor those responses to different learning styles and information. I was gonna skip all the way to the end.
And could it be, I mean, as broad as, some people are very linear in the way they learn. And then you have people like me, I need to know what the final product is before I can even begin to see those steps in between. If you start trying to give me steps, I'm going like, well, why am I doing this?
Yes,
So you can, all right.
And this is kind of an example of how we use prompt, as a thank you guys to sort of, coming here tonight and joining us for this. The original was thank you for joining us for this presentation. You've been a fantastic audience. We asked AI to make it a little more formal. AI says, your presence has enhanced the quality of our gathering, and we are grateful for your attentiveness and engagement. Yes. And then, so we said, AI, make it even more fun. Dear friends, thank you for being an amazing audience. Your presence has truly made this presentation shine. But that's not enough. We want it to be even more fun. And even more fun. Hey, everyone. Big thanks for being such a cool crowd. You've made this presentation awesome. So, Yeah, it's all in the prompt. It's all in, what you put into it and what you can get out of it, so that's sort of tailoring that.
There are some very cool ways to use AI in libraries, just if you guys ever want to have a side conversation. Like if you have a patron that came up and said, I read this book, it had a red cover, it was about a little girl. So, it's like, oh, gosh, you can put, there are tools where you can actually put that in.
And it used to be, right?
Or, just reader's advisory, this person loves this author for this reason, can you recommend? And it spit out some- So definitely lots of ways professionally that you guys can use that with the library.
Well, I was in another meeting, so I missed all the scary stuff, so I.
Yeah, I didn't even on a good note.
You said,
It's all.
you said when you were trying to write a report, you start off saying, can we create an outline? What was the other, what you made?
So when, like, I've written the essay, like, I know what my concepts are, I've fact searched, I had all the information I wanted to put into my paper, I've done my homework, right? But I'm not really sure what order it makes sense to list things in my essay, or, does it flow when I read this? Am I too repetitive? There are things that I use, to help me create those outlines and to make sure that it makes sense when I'm reading it. Do I say the word too many times? Have I used a particular word too many times in my essay? Would this make sense to an audience? What kind of feedback can you give me from this information? So you can definitely use it to sort of proof your paper in a way. That's kind of how I use it.
And I'll add this too, because we were talking about the transcriptions. If you're having to give a presentation, if you did a transcription or a recording on your presentation, one of the things we were talking about using Otter to get information out, to say, hey, what was mentioned here? What was really interesting is to ask, did they deliver a good presentation? Was it succinct? There's also analysis that can be done on, like you said, did I say too many ums? Did I speed up and slow down? So things you wouldn't even think that you could get out of those questioning, you can ask that too,
Lots of feedback.
Did I deliver in monotone, speech, or was I enthusiastic? You can it'll pick out subtleties like that.
And to that point, something else that's even, well, it's weird that I use. Because I'm all over the place. It is transcription, of myself. I have something that I want to present, and in the same way that it can take the meeting notes and transcribe them and come up with a summary of that and give it you bullet points and what the action items were from the meeting. In that same way, sounds, I can have it record me, talk to it about something that I'm wanting to put into a good format, put into an email and communicate to somebody else. And I mean, I can do this, it's gonna take a lot more effort. If I just talk about it to our on the way home, it will give me a summary of what it is, what were the main points that I was, I'm just kind of complaining about such and such, and it will, and Joe was able about it, that it's my therapy sister's daughter. But I mean, it's literally will give you, here were your main points, here were the items that you really felt like you needed to be addressed. And I mean, so you can literally just transcribe yourself and it will make notes for you. So, what were the main points, what I was trying to.
And talking back to your question, sir, you asked sort of some academic purposes. I'm in a class right now, and we have to do an ethical issue for a government official in another state. And so I was wanting to look for like topics. And so I just said, I need to write a paper, I need to do a presentation on an ethical issue. Can you give me some ideas? Just so I would know what to even search for. So again, it doesn't write the paper, it doesn't do the presentation for me, but I'm just using it as a tool to get some ideas. So it really is a good jumping off point. And of course, we can talk all night long, because we're pretty excited, but we're happy to answer any additional questions you guys might have, or David, do you have registration information or contact information for anybody that attends?